On Tuesday, the state's Public Service Commission met to review a request from Georgia Power over building new generation resources. Among those who spoke to the members against it was Patty Duran, a former Democratic candidate for the PSC and previous guest here on The Take. Surveillance video is alleged that eventually shows Duran during a break in the meeting, picking up a booklet labeled Georgia Power Trade Secrets, eventually putting it into her purse and leaving the room. Now, Duran was arrested by Capitol Police. She was charged with a felony theft and trade secrets, a crime that in Georgia carries a penalty of 1 to 5 years in prison and a fine of up to $50,000. Last check, she remains in a Fulton County jail with no bail set. The arrest highlights just how charged Georgians' emergency debate has become, and comes as voters prepare to decide two PSC seats in November. All right, let's look at how this incident might grow as far as security goes. I got Zach Merchant here with me. We're going to talk about this a little bit. He's the co-host of the Georgia Vote. Talk to us about this a little bit. We talk about this PSC vote and how it's getting cranked up this year.
Yeah, the PSC race is in some years something of a little bit of a sleepy kind of issue on the ballot. Not that it's not important, and not that it does not occasionally stir up controversy. We saw this situation, these allegations against Ms. Duran there. But the Public Service Commission has a bunch of jobs, chief among them, they're in charge of setting power rates here in Georgia. So you pay an electric bill to Georgia Power, they play a role in what those rates are being set at. This year, this election has become a real focal point. There are two incumbent Republicans up for re-election. That's Tim Echols and Fitz Johnson. They face two Democratic challengers, Peter Hubbard and Alicia Johnson. And in part because of the way the calendar has stacked up this year, it's in many ways the most prominent statewide race on the ballot. So if you're a Democratic operative or a Republican operative, this is the place where you're putting a lot of your attention. And so that's why people are talking about a PSC race who otherwise probably wouldn't even be necessarily thinking about it right now.
Absolutely right. I wouldn't have been thinking about that. And then you hear about these charges, you go, hey, wait, okay, whoa. Now, how does that work? And so you put some clarity on that.
And to be clear, too, you know, the situation with these criminal allegations, that's unrelated to the race itself here. You know, Ms. Duran, she's not a candidate on the ballot here. That was something that allegedly took place at a recent meeting. But if you're a Democrat or a Republican who's involved in professional politics, you know, you going into 2026, because that's the big year coming up, you want to have something where you can say, hey, my side did well. And so if you're a Democrat, you're trying to flip the script and flip one of these seats. If you're a Republican, you're trying to push that message, win the races, and say, hey, look, we're still strong going into 26. That's why there's a lot of attention from both sides here.
Gotcha. All right, so the government shutdown still going on, right? Where do both parties sit now?
Still stuck. I mean, you know, you kind of run out of ways to describe it at some point. We're well into our third week at this point, and the rumblings coming out of Washington, at least right now, and we've got to put this big asterisk because things can always change quickly when lawmakers want things to change quickly. Right now, the rumblings are that this could continue to last for some time, and it's still stuck over this original issue, the issue of health care and health care subsidies. Democrats, the majority position of their party still is that any new government funding bill that would reopen the government, they say it's got to include an extension of Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare, subsidies, because they're set right now to expire at the end of the year. And Democrats say a lot of people's health care premiums could go way up if those subsidies aren't extended. Republicans, very different perspective still, they say, you got to reopen the government first. There's a Republican-backed stopgap bill available. It's ready. It's being voted upon again and again and again in the Senate that would reopen the government. Short term, a couple of weeks now, and that window is shrinking. But they say you got to reopen first, then we'll have this conversation about health care. It's still stuck, Chesley.
Wow, we got about 30 seconds left. Anything you want to hit big that we need to know about?
I think the one thing we should keep in mind is as we continue to talk about this shutdown conversation, in the last 20 seconds we have here, you can see it as Democrats versus Republicans, but there are some outliers. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, who's in the House, a stalwart conservative firebrand from Georgia in many ways, she recently has come out and become increasingly critical of House leadership, Republican leadership, saying, hey, we're not in session right now, and she is criticizing Speaker Mike Johnson, saying, bring us back in session. Let us get to work.
All right. Zach, really appreciate it, man.
Thanks, Chesley.
All right. You can watch the Georgia Vote with Zach Merchant and Faith Jesse Sunday mornings right here at 11 o'clock on 11 Alive Plus.